Peace, everyone. You're watching the New Nexus Network. Please take this time to like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And most importantly, hit the notification bell for all so you'll be notified of all videos in the future going forward. Today, we have a special guest to talk about the talk about the National Football League. In my opinion, the greatest sports league there is. So I'm gonna give her I'm gonna give her a chance to introduce herself, and then we'll go ahead and get started to the discussion.
Hey, how you all doing? I'm Raven Moore. I'm currently the sports reporter for the Chillicothe Gazette, a newspaper in Southern Ohio. University of Memphis alum, actually how I met Marcus. I've had experience covering the Memphis Tigers football team, women's basketball team, as well as their softball team. And also I'm the creator of the X Report, which merges the current leagues we love with regards to the NFL, WWE, NBA with social justice, because let's be honest, the days of sports and politics being intertwined, not being intertwined, are over. So yeah, be sure to check that out, thexport.net. Great to talk to you, Marcus. It's always nice to talk to a fellow sports fan, former Memphis Tiger.
Absolutely, absolutely. Go Tigers, go! Both being both Memphis alumni, yeah, that's one thing we definitely have in common, and we also another thing we also have in common is an actual love for the game of football, and a being um a very knowledgeable person about the game. I wanted to have you come on, especially on one of my first shows, and talk about this upcoming season. So, how do you? What's your? Are you excited for this upcoming season? I know you being a diehard Baltimore Ravens fan. I know you can't wait for for your Ravens to take the field and to show that they are definitely true contenders in not just the AFC North, but the entire NFL.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was actually watching a preseason game last night against the Saints, and you couldn't have told me it wasn't a regular season game. I was just so hyped up with how the defense was playing, got six turnovers. Like, hopefully, it's a precursor for the regular season. But yeah, overall, just every team in the league this year, it's just an interesting storyline, whether it be a rookie, somebody with a point to prove, somebody trying to get a big contract. Like, this year, I think, is probably the most exciting years that we've had in some time. Maybe it is because of the extra season. Maybe it is because coming off, 2020 where things weren't as normal. There was no preseason. We didn't get a combine, like so much craziness. So I think that with this year, there's so many unknowns, but I think that it's a beautiful thing to really get back into NFL the way that it has been, and hopefully it will continue to be. Thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just got a couple. As you know, I'm a Titans fan, and when y'all beat us last year at the in the playoffs, I was like, I remember when we beat you guys in the regular season, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, when they started acting a fool on y'all logo, I'm like, that's gonna come back to haunt us. That's gonna come back to haunt us, and Lord, and it did. It did in a major way. We always have to play you guys in the playoffs. I swear, our last what 3 4 years that we've been in the playoffs, we've always had to come back. We've always had to play you guys, and we always y'all always give us all we can handle. So
Look, I'm gonna say it like this. I'm not, we're good. You and I we're good. I never had beef with the Titans, even after they beat us in the divisional round. I was like, you know what, the better team won. However, when they desecrated our logo, that's when I was like, okay, Titans won't more. They got a problem. And so they got us in the regular season. That was cool. And so once the playoffs rolled around, I knew we were playing the Titans. I was like, I don't care if we lose to whoever we play next. I want to beat the Titans. And not only did we beat y'all, but we made Derrick Henry a non-factor, which how many teams in the league can say that? And also got that game-stealing interception. Marcus Peters did a dance on the logo. My favorite moment of the Ravens season last year. So other than that, I feel like right now we're about even. We don't see you guys in the regular season this year, which honestly, with you guys having Julio, I can't say I'm too, upset about that. But I'm sure in the playoffs we'll meet again. So I'm gonna save all my trash talk until then.
yeah, the logo thing we had that coming, but funny you bring up funny you brought up Julio. one of the first questions I wanted to ask you in reference to that, there was some pretty significant free agent moves over the offseason. What do you think are some of the biggest free agent moves in your opinion? Um, and not only just free agency, but free agency and trades in the offseason.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to like stray away from like the conventional easy ones. The first one, of course, is an easy one with Matthew Stafford going to the Rams. I think that bringing Matthew Stafford into the fold, while you could argue that Jared Goff wasn't that bad of a quarterback, which he wasn't the worst. I think that Matthew Stafford brings a different toughness, some experience, and most of all, some aggressiveness to that offense. There were a lot of plays where Jared Goff could have made things happen, but because of, I guess, his limitations with his arms or his fear, he didn't do it. Whereas Matthew Stafford, he's coming into the league, he's hungry, only been to the playoffs a couple of times despite being in his 30s. He's hungry and he wants to do great things. And I think that the Rams and him can have the opportunity to be a perfect marriage. Another one is one I don't think they got enough attention, but Rodney Hudson, center from the Raiders being traded to the Arizona Cardinals. Reason being, we know that the Arizona Cardinals offense is going to be potent. Kyler Murray has had a really good first 2 years in the league. DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion, is still the best wide receiver in the league. They've added a nice pieces with regards to bringing in Delaney Walker at tight end, AJ Green, who we know when he's healthy, he's productive. But their offensive line has always seemed to be a bit of a problem, and I think that bringing in arguably the best center into the league to kind of man that offensive line is going to do wonders, help give Kyler more time to throw, and hopefully open up things for their run game with Kenyon Drake being gone and replacing him with James Conner. And then the final one is Patrick Peterson to the Vikings. I think that what Mike Zimmer in his NFL career has been known for is having great defenses. Last year was not that. You could make an argument that the Vikings were a very young defense, that they had injuries across the board. Their defense looked rough. And I think that bringing in a veteran Patrick Peterson not only helps bring in a Pro Bowl caliber player, one of the best cornerbacks of this generation, but also it gives a on-field coach for the younger guys to really help calm them down, help to show what they're supposed to do on the field, how they're supposed to handle their business, and do so in the right way. So if I had to knock down just a few of the best free agent positions or off-season moves, those are definitely out there.
Yeah, I think especially that the Arizona Cardinals offense is looking pretty intense. I think the defense is looking pretty intense too. If you was to ask me what is the toughest division on paper in the NFL, I would say the NFC West, and it's not even close because they have literally, first of all, with the exception of the 49ers, and I'm kind of iffy on that. We'll see how Garoppolo does. Um, it looks like he's going to be in a fight for his job, but at the same time, they all have a serviceable quarterback that can run their offense, and all have formidable defenses. They all have their holes. They all have their weaknesses, but at the same time, I think that's going to be a definite. It's going to be a dog fight with them for each other. But I'm really liking what the Cardinals are doing, especially with adding JJ Watt, what they've done over the past few years. Having Kyler Murray under center, you got JJ Watt, pretty much leading the defense. Having DeAndre Hopkins out on wide out. I think they're going to make a definite run for it all within the next few years because they definitely are slowly, quietly putting the pieces together. It's going to be I I think some of the this trade here, if this trade happens, I think it's going to change. It's going to make a it's going to change so many things. Um, Chances are Deshaun Watson isn't playing any more games with the Texans. But if the Eagles pull the trigger on picking him up, that automatically, because a lot of people already think it's Cowboys is going to win the NFC East. I would say I would that would have to be up in question, especially with these recent injuries of Dak Prescott's shoulder, and if the Eagles get Deshaun Watson, it's there's a lot of talk. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if it does, we'll see. But I think the Eagles have a formidable team that could give the Cowboys some run for their money. Um, it's definitely going to be really, really interesting. A lot of trades that or acquisitions that you thought were probably going to happen in the offseason didn't happen. Probably don't. Probably you can make with the exception of Julio Jones and the Stafford golf trade. Um, I can't. Those were probably the most highly covered, if you will. One of the more, I guess, the
Yeah.
ones that was more in the more or less highly, highly talked about. But I think there was some interesting the free agent signings were the ones that really stood out to me, and I just can't wait to see for the Titans fans to saw the Titans had one of the worst defenses in the league, and it was just it was horrible. We couldn't get a pass rush to save our lives. So any type of addition would have um would have helped, with drafting with the drafting of Caleb Farley, signings of Bud Dupree and Danico Autry, and we'll see how those go. But there was a lot of I think there was a lot of free agent moves that could definitely that were really significant. Just how significant we'll see. But it's going to be real interesting, really really interesting to watch.
Yeah. And kind of going back to something you said about, the trades that were talked about. I mean, it was supposed to be a quarterback carousel. Russell Wilson was supposed to be traded. Deshaun Watson was supposed to be traded. Jimmy G could have potentially had a reunion with New England. And of course, Aaron Rodgers, which, ended up coming along towards draft time, which is arguably the most exciting time for football fans, in the offseason. So to kind of look back and see, well, the only quarterback, that really got moved was a Matthew Stafford, and Deshaun Watson is kind of up in the air. It's like, it was funny because this had the makings to be kind of like an NBA offseason where all hell breaks loose, but instead it was pretty minor things that took place. It was more so media um, fluffing things up more than it really was supposed to be, as opposed to actual things taking place. I agree with you with regards to Deshaun Watson, though. I do think that those feelings of wanting to get out of Houston are very real, especially once you factor in the personal things. I think he definitely wants to get out of there. But I'm gonna disagree with you in terms of if he were to go to the Eagles, that it would make them a formidable team, mainly because their offense still has some issues. And this is me not even saying I think that the Cowboys are going to win the division, which I know we'll get to later. But I do think that they still have problems. Their offensive line is very good when healthy, but health has been a major concern. Their receiving core is really lacking that explosiveness. They're hoping that Devontae Smith can do it, but there are still questions with that. And so they just have some questions around their roster that I don't really have when looking at a couple other teams in that division. But I do think that getting Deshaun Watson makes them much better than where they are right now with their quarterbacks.
So you're saying that the not the Cowboys, but the Eagles have issues with their offensive line.
When I would say yes, because in the last few years they struggled with staying healthy. Last year, everybody was hurt, and you could tell the effects of it. Jason Peters is gone now, and even though, of course, he's a bit long in the tooth as well, they knew what he was. Lane Johnson is great, but he dealt with his injury concerns. Jason Kelsey, same thing. And then Andre Dillard really hasn't formed into the pick that they wanted him to be when they drafted him a couple of years ago. So with the Eagles, it's tough. I mean, on paper, their offensive line should be good, but health has been a major concern. And the best ability that any athlete can have is availability. You can't do anything for me on the sideline, so if their offensive line can't stay healthy, I think that's going to create even more problems.
I think that's a pretty good point you made what you were making earlier, talking about the trades that could have happened. But one thing we know that a healthy quarterback, a good quarterback, is so sought after, and very expensive to get. I mean, the going rate for a quarterback, I think at first was it the Packers asking for two ones and a two for Aaron Rodgers at least. It's going to cost. I mean, the price is so steep that there's people that really don't want to pay it. It's just you is it's. I mean, there's people that would do it, but if you do that, you're basically surrendering your immediate future for this quarterback. And chances are, for if the quarterback's good enough, there's people that will be willing to pay it. But the better you are, the more the team is going to ask for you. And I know that the Texans are going to ask a really significant amount for Deshaun Watson, because I know this personally, with my team having to play Deshaun Watson twice a year. You carry Deshaun Watson can literally carry a team by himself, all by himself. And
Yeah.
imagine if you give him some weapons to play with. I mean, he's an automatic Super Bowl contender, automatically. What are some things that you and I would say, just give me three things that you're going to look out for specifically this season. Just three things.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start off in my division, AFC North. I want to see if the Browns defense can improve. Now, one of the biggest flaws against the Chiefs and most of the season was they couldn't stop anybody. You watch that Monday night football game against the Ravens, Lamar comes out, comes back, turns into Superman. That all would have changed because it was a fourth down play. If MJ Stewart was a better cornerback on Hollywood Brown, that play doesn't happen. The Browns win that game, possibly win the division. So the biggest thing I would say for the Browns is they've made a lot of defensive acquisitions. I love the John Johnson signing, putting him at safety. They're supposed to be getting Grant Delpit back, rookie from a year ago. I love coming out. I want to see if he can be healthy. Greedy Williams is going to be coming back, but after that shoulder injury, is he 100%? Not to mention they drafted Greg Newsome with their first round pick, got JOK in the second round, who had a really nice preseason debut last night, and also Troy Hill. You bring in Jadeveon Clowney. They've spent a lot of money in draft capital on their defensive side of the ball. So the question is it going to pay off? Are these all these additions? Are these people coming back in? Are they going to actually produce, or is it going to be the same problem of the offense carrying the load and Myles Garrett being great, but everybody else failing to carry the load? Another thing that I'm looking forward to watching is, can the Broncos overall roster overcome their quarterback problems? The Broncos are not unique in having a really solid roster, but having quarterback issues. Drew Lock has been a turnover machine. Don't really know if he can really carry the load. And then you have a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, who doesn't turn the ball over much, but he plays the game in a very, for lack of a better word, meek way. He's not somebody who's going to try to slash you up and down the field. He's not going to sling the ball 30, 40 times a game. And so the Broncos are at a unique problem where they have two very different quarterbacks, but they have a really good roster. Their wide receivers look stout, especially with Cortland Sutton coming back. Of course, Jerry Judy's there. Noah Fant has shown potential. And that's just on the offense. Defensively, you get Von Miller back. Bradley Chubb was a Pro Bowler a year ago. Their linebackers are looking good. And then, of course, their secondary that they spent a lot of money in draft capital on, too. They gave Justin Simmons another franchise tag. You have Kyle Fuller you bring in, Patrick Surtain, Ronald Darby. So overall, you can make an argument that the Broncos at worst maybe have a top 10, top 15 roster in the league, but their quarterback problems may be the thing that holds them back. So I'm interested in seeing if they can have a team that can carry the load in spite of their quarterbacks, kind of similar to what they did in 2015 when they won the Super Bowl. And then the final thing that I'm looking forward to is it time for a Saints rebuild? Even when Jameis Winston was on the Bucks, I was a Jameis Winston fan. Don't ask me why, but I've always liked Jameis Winston. And so while I would definitely start him over Taysom Hill, the Saints are going through a lot right now. We really don't know what's going on with Michael Thomas, and even if he does stay on the roster, he's still going to be out for a sustained amount of time. We know Alvin Kamara is a gamer, but can he be the only one? what receivers are going to step up? Traquan Smith really hasn't looked like he could do it. Callaway last year looked like he had some moments. Little Jordan Humphrey had some moments as well. But you don't really know what you're getting out of this Saints offense. It's a whole new world with Drew Brees retiring. And then defensively, we know that they have a solid front seven led by Cam Jordan and Demario Davis. Their safeties are fine. Questions come with cornerback. Marshawn Lattimore has kind of had some off years these past couple of years. And then after that, the depth behind him is questionable. So I'm really interested to see if the Saints will be able to right the ship. Can they be one of those teams that lose their starting quarterback and then still stay in the playoff hunt? Or is it going to be a full rebuild taking place in the Big Easy? Hey, you're muted, by the way. I'm sorry. You're muted.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. I was saying, Jameis Winston. He's a definitely a interesting character. I've always been a fan of Jameis Winston myself, but he really needs to if he can work on some things with, like, I guess, for more or less just calming down. I mean, he knows how to run an offense. He knows how to run an offense. He knows how to read a defense. He has a tremendous arm. Um, he has mobility. He has all the intangibles that you need for a quarterback. He just gotta find a way to put it together. Tampa Bay, I guess was his I guess everyone needs that. I guess everyone has that. The growing pains, and I guess Tampa was his growing pains, especially with you know, I would say quality versus quantity, and he had the last year to sit behind arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks ever and learn and work on his game, and I think that the next chance that he gets, he's going to be a lot. He's going to be. I think we're going to see a different Jameis Winston. I just think he needs another chance. I've always been a fan of him back in Florida State. Minus the extracurricular activities or whatnot. But I've always
Yeah,
been a fan of his
the
play on the
crab
field,
legs.
and I think he deserves another chance. Will it be with New Orleans? I don't think so. I don't think New Orleans is. Yeah, I think he's a better quarterback than Taysom Hill, but at the same time, I think that they're sold on Taysom Hill. They would rather they'll. I think they're willing to literally down that hill, no pun intended, in reference to having
Yeah.
Taysom be the next quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. He's probably going to have to go somewhere else, get a chance there, and build from the ground up. But I think that he's going to be a lot better than a lot of people think. A lot of people think. I don't think you should just throw him away and just ignore and just not even pay attention to everything that he has done in his short time behind center. Who are some of the players that, I mean, you've already kind of answered this question in the last question in reference to some of the things you want to look out for this season. But I was going to ask, who are some of the other players that you are willing to look out, who you're going to keep an eye on this season, especially specifically rookies from this draft class. Anybody that you're going to definitely keep an eye on is and pay attention to their performance.
Yeah, so first I'm gonna give a non-rookie, but I mean, his situation is so new, you might as well kind of classify him as one. Now I'm gonna say Sam Darnold. I mean, coming off of the last few years in New York, where it was essentially a situation where everyone is bound to fail. You don't really have any offensive weapons. Your coaching is bad. Your defensive bad is bad. It was a tough go of things for Sam Darnold, who at the time, if you kind of circle back to the 2018 draft, he was considered possibly the first overall pick. And so I think that this is going to be a whole new situation with him in Carolina. I think that he's going to have a much better offense around him, a very good defense playing on the other side of him as well. And I think that the big reason why I'm watching him is because this is it. Either you're going to prove everyone right about your time in Carolina and kind of show that you really weren't the guy and that you are really a turnover machine, or this could be the opportunity for you to show that no, you deserve to be in the league. It was just you were a part of a bad situation. So I think that with that in mind, I think Sam Darnold is definitely one of the most intriguing players to watch this upcoming season. And I think that with that in mind, I think that he's going to be a guy who has the potential to really elevate this team and make them a contender for a Super Bowl.
Raven, you still there? Well, while she comes back, looks like she's probably having some technical difficulties. The There's quite a there some of the players I definitely agree with the Sam Darnold reference. Trying to see, is he really worthy of being a starting quarterback? Um, I believe he had a bad deal had a bad deal in New York. Um, I don't think he was given the tools necessarily needed to succeed. But I think that this is definitely, sometimes you need a change of scenery in order to show your true potential. And I think that this move was definitely for the better of Sam Darnold's career. It's just, now let's see what he's going to make of it.
Sorry
I'm
about
sorry.
that. I don't know what happened with the
No, it's,
connection or whatever, but
no, it's okay. It's okay.
okay. Next up is kind of going back to rookies is defensive end Gregory Rousseau, going to the Buffalo Bills, their first round pick. Now, Gregory Rousseau is a guy that has some questions about him. In his first full year starting a defensive end in Miami, had 15 and a half sacks, looked like a first round pick, top 10 for sure. Then COVID year happens. He sits back, doesn't have the best pre-draft workouts, and his draft stock kind of slips. But I'm really high on him. I think that even though he's a bit of a raw prospect, I think that he can provide a big push to the Bills pass rush that they haven't had. Their pass rush has definitely been one of the more struggling in the league in recent years. You wouldn't have known about watching the Ravens game in the playoffs, but their pass rush mightily struggled last year. And I think that Gregory Rousseau, if he's a guy who can really fit in on his potential, he can become one of the fastest rising edge rushers in the league. So I'm really excited to see his development. And then kind of going back to now this isn't a rookie. But this is someone else who has a change of scenery that I'm excited to see what he can do. And it's Mike Hughes, cornerback, now for the Kansas City Chiefs. Spent his first few years with the Vikings after being drafted in this, I believe, second round out of UCF. And he's a guy who has struggled with injuries. And when he's been on the field, he's been a productive player. But the problem was getting him on the field. But I think that going to Kansas City, a team that, as we all know, is offensive heavy, you know that these opposing teams are going to pass the ball early and often. And truth be told, the Chiefs have really struggled with finding a definite number one corner. L'Jarius Sneed a year ago really kind of showed himself as a rookie, and he has potential. But I think that Mike Hughes, especially if he can stay healthy, he can really rebuild his career. He's great when the ball is in the air, has an opportunity to pick off passes, which goes great for any defense if you can create those turnovers. So I'm excited to see what Mike Hughes can really do in a new setting, especially at his position. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to break out in 2021.
Do you think the Chiefs, especially with all the moves from all the other roster moves from all the other AFC teams, do you think the Chiefs have what it takes to make it back to the Super Bowl again?
Absolutely. I know as AFC teams being, our favorites, of course, we're just waiting who's going to take down the Chiefs because they are the standard bearer in the AFC. The Buffalo Bills, like they could have been the next ones to do it, but the AFC Championship came and went. They did not perform well. And unfortunately, while everybody has been making moves within the conference, they're just trying to catch up with the Chiefs, who honestly, with their moves, like I mentioned, with getting Mike Hughes, and then the draft they did getting a guy like Nick Bolton. Of course, still have Tyron Matthew, signing Jerron Reed, which I thought was a great move on their defensive line. I mean, you see things like that, and then they fortify their offensive line, get stronger there, and it's still like I would take the Chiefs roster over most of the other rosters in the AFC. And don't get me wrong, I think that there are other teams that are going to be competitive, but I think that head to head, I think the Chiefs I think they're still a bit too much for anybody to handle, barring some sort of miraculous injury taking place or one of the guys, on these stronger AFC teams who we don't expect to break out, take someone like that to really show themselves.
And since we're talking about one of the Super Bowl teams, let me ask you about this. Let me ask you about the defending champion Buccaneers. Do you think that, I mean, Tom Brady is going into, what is it, year number 20, 21?
I believe
Um,
so, yeah.
yeah, and he definitely has a supporting cast around him. Do you think that do you think we all know that eventually Father Time is going to catch up with you? You can prolong it as long as you keep prolonging it and prolonging it and prolonging it, and eventually, you can push it back only so far. But do you think this is the year that Tom Brady hits the wall?
It's difficult because while I do think there's going to be some sort of wall that Tom Brady hits, I think that finally his time in the NFL will be coming to an end soon. Um, I think that because of the team he's on, it may not be as apparent. Like you mentioned, the Bucks have so many weapons around him to where even if a pass isn't the prettiest, you have a good idea that it's going to get caught with the receivers that they have. Their running backs really came on towards the end, and plus their defense, well, I'll take that back. Their front seven and their safeties, particularly Antoine Winfield, are just so good. They can make any quarterback's career extended. I feel like if he was in a situation like he was with the Patriots, where it was that poor receiving group, that Father Time would definitely look like it's catching up. But because the Buccaneers have such a well built team around him, it's going to help him out so much because the weight on his shoulders is going to be less because he can kind of rely on his receivers to make the plays as opposed to being 100% accurate all the time.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see what the unarguably the greatest quarterback of all time, in my opinion, and what how they um how they work to help him get his eighth ring. They definitely have a team. They're stacked on both sides of the ball. I would say, if you had to find a one weakness in the Buccaneers, it may be, and I say may be, the secondary, because everywhere else they literally
Oh
have
yeah, definitely.
they have they're damn near elite. They're damn near elite. Um,
Yeah.
what I'd like for us to do is to each of us go through every division and just pick who wins their division, who wins that division, and a little bit why. Now, the only caveat is we will we're not, since you're a Ravens fan, I'm a Titans fan. We're not going to speak on every other division. We're going to leave out the AFC South as well. I will leave out the AFC South, and you'll leave out the AFC North, and then
Fair.
eventually we'll come to we'll each speak on every. But then I have a final question that we'll talk about, and I'll get to that once we get done with all the other divisions. But in your opinion, who wins the where we'll start with the NFC? Who wins the NFC North?
The NFC North, I've wrestled with this a lot. And I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm actually gonna say the Minnesota Vikings beating the Packers. I think that it's gonna be very close, but a big reason why I'm going the Vikings overall is I think they had a tremendous offseason. I mentioned, Patrick Peterson, but they also made a lot of really good moves to help out their defensive side of the ball. Not to mention the guys who are going to be returning on defense, such as the Neil Hunter, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks. They're going to get a lot healthy on that side of the ball, which is always helpful. And then with their offense and what they were able to produce last year, I think that if everybody can stay healthy, I personally would say they're the most talented team in that division. And I think that they're really going to give Aaron Rodgers and co. a run for their money.
I think the Packers going to win it again. I don't trust Kirk Cousins. I don't trust Kirk Cousins
Totally fair.
make to carry the team, especially going into November, December. They're playing inside of this lovely building there, I must say, the U.S. Bank Stadium. I mean, if they can get home field advantage, they have a chance. But I really don't trust. I don't trust Kirk Cousins. Chicago. I can't. The quarterback. I can't think of the quarter. What's the quarterback? Who the quarterback they drafted?
Justin Fields or
Yeah,
Andy Dalton. Justin Fields is who they drafted.
I don't trust Justin Fields. You know, he's just getting started, especially with what was that statement he said over the weekend? Talk about it's just the game is moving slower than he
Oh, he
thought.
was like, it felt a little too slow for me.
I
Yeah,
was, I was like, okay, all right,
that was a famous. I'm sorry.
keep
Yeah,
that
that was
same.
a famous last words because Tua, right? Because Tua said the same thing, something similar. When he was starting and he was winning games, he said something along the lines of the NFL is not that hard. And then he played the Broncos and got his butt kicked. So yeah, those are things you don't really say out loud, especially as a rookie.
No, you don't. I was gonna say keep that same energy come week 3, week 4.
Right.
When you gotta play some of the, I mean,
And
when you're
that's if he even
playing like
starts.
the best in the world. Yeah, and that's exactly that's if he starts. But I don't trust. I mean the Lions are just going to be the Lions. The Lions are going to line. You know they're going to be who they are. But yeah, I think it's the Packers division to win. Um, and it's kind of interesting since excuse me this contract, this 1 year contract for Aaron Rodgers. You know he with all the turmoil in the off season that they talk. He's going. He agreed to sign on for 1 more year. And I don't see any reason why he's not going to give it his all for this 1 year. But then after this 1 year, he's pretty much gone. But definitely, he's an all timer. He's a great. I think he's going to win another Super Bowl. I just don't think it's going to be with the Packers. However, he's going. I don't see a significant roadblock to him not winning the NFC North. Moving on to the NFC South, who do you have and why?
NFC South, I'm going to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mentioned earlier about the New Orleans Saints. I don't know if this is going to be a retooling year or a rebuilding year, but either way, I just think that the Bucks are just too stacked at so many places. I agree with you when you mentioned the secondary maybe not being the best, especially their corners, but I think that overall everything else is in just such a good space that I have a hard time thinking that anybody's going to beat them. Atlanta, their defense still looks pretty bad, and losing Julio, I don't really trust. I think that Calvin really can still have a very good year, but I think it's a whole nother ball game for him to be the number one guy and have to do it. Kyle Pitts is solid, but I'm not. We haven't really seen him yet, so who's to say what he's going to do on the NFL level? And then the Carolina Panthers, I mentioned them earlier about Sam Darnold and how I think that this could be a great opportunity for him. But I mean, still competing with the Bucks, who arguably have the most talented roster throughout the whole league, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bucks shouldn't have a problem with this. All the other teams, you can make the case that all the other teams are basically in a rebuilding year. They have a long way to go. I don't even see a that's this for another show, but I don't even see either one of the teams even making a wild card seat, getting a wild card. But I think the Bucks are going to run away with this division. Don't have a single problem. There's nothing. There's no hurdles, roadblocks. Panthers. Sam Darnold. He's proven that this is his year to prove he's not a bust. New Orleans is trying to figure out their long term quarterback situation, and Atlanta just don't have much. Um, NFC East. Who you got and why?
NFC East now. One of the most difficult, actually, probably the most difficult division to pick. I'm going to go with the New York Giants. No, I am not on the Daniel Jones bandwagon. I think that they make
Wow,
the
that's
playoffs despite him. Yeah, I think in terms of just overall roster, offensively, they have Saquon Barkley, when he's healthy, is a top five back easy. The receiving core is much improved. Tight ends, Evan Ingram has shown that he can be good, when he's, into the game. But also, they just brought in Kyle Rudolph, who I think is a very nice number two tight end, maybe and have times when he's number one. And then defensively, I think that their defense played really strong. That's a group that really doesn't have a strong weakness. I mean, their defensive line played very well. Also, with some more draft additions, their linebackers are stout, cornerbacks played well, safeties are good. So I just think that on every level, excluding quarterback, they're in a very good position. And I think that for the division like the NFC East, you have to be well rounded. And I think that in terms of last year, we saw that a lot. Like, if you could be well rounded, you'll win the division. And especially defensively, which Washington took advantage of. And then Alex Smith did just enough to get them there. And I think that that's what's going to happen with the New York Giants.
I think we should really pay attention to the Washington football team. Not saying they're going to win the division, but really pay attention to them because they're building something, especially that defense.
Yeah.
They're they're building something really, something that's going to be a problem if they can just figure out their quarterback situation. I think they can definitely make some noise. That front seven for the football team is going to give people headaches, and they're going to need to do that in order to beat who I think is going to, as of right now, run away with the division. That is, if Dak Prescott is healthy, the Dallas Cowboys, because the Dallas Cowboys have Pro Bowl players on at every level, literally every level, offense
You
and
must
defense.
mean, okay, where? Who is a linebacker? I mean, not linebacker, a piece person in their secondary who could make the Pro Bowl, realistically.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
and now
And
that I think, okay,
even their
there's
defensive line, Demarcus Lawrence is like a fringe Pro Bowler. Their best defensive unit is linebacker easily, but their
okay,
defense is
okay,
still
but you don't think they have a pass rush. Who's the guy they drafted in the no, that's didn't they draft a defensive lineman in the first round? Or am I thinking about somebody else?
no, they got Michael Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State, which is
Okay,
great. Their linebackers are going to be great. Everywhere else on that defense, no, they can't stop anybody.
you try to yeah, okay.
In terms of offense, they easily have the best
Okay,
offense, but
but I will all right, I will say this. Their offensive their offensive weapons are elite. Their offensive weapons are elite.
yeah.
Defense, I still say front seven can make enough noise to keep, especially to keep certain teams at bay. Because I don't think too many teams, especially in the in the NFC East, can score with them. Can you see Washington scoring with the Cowboys, putting up 30, 40 points a game? I don't see it. Well, but Washington has
I,
a front seven that's a problem. But Cowboys
that
and
could
then
stop.
Eagles,
Yeah, and Eagles, no, I don't think the Eagles have it. New York has, if Daniel Jones can not turn the ball over, they have offensive weapons that could do it. In terms of offense, I 100% agree that the Cowboys have the best offense, but their defense, in my opinion, is easily the worst in that division. And I just don't see them stopping anybody. I think it'll be one of those things the offense can score 30, but the whoever they go up against can score 32, minus the Eagles. I don't know about the Eagles, but just that defense is just, and the thing is, because the NFC East is such a wide open division, I don't even like totally disagree that they could win the division. I just think that their defense is just so bad that it's just going to be a thing where the offense has no choice but to score 30 plus. Because if they don't, they're going to lose.
I'm looking at the Cowboys. I'm looking at the Cowboys projected defense, and yeah,
Besides linebacker, I just can't do. Even Demarcus Lawrence is not somebody I get excited about. He had one great year. I think I was 14 like that. Got paid, and then just looks. He's just there. Like there are several. He's not even the best pass rusher in his division.
According to their website, I'm on the on the Dallas Cowboys website. I see, yeah, the Trayvon Diggs and Anthony Brown are their potential starting corners, and I'm like,
Ooh.
uh, yeah.
Trayvon Diggs showed some things as a rookie, but I'm still not like
How Snoop Dogg say,
banging the
"Who?"
draw. Yeah, like I'm not. I'm sorry. The Cowboys defense is terrible. Offensively, they are great, but their defense is bad.
Yeah, I kind of I was yeah. The secondary isn't all that, but yeah, I really like what they're doing at linebacker though. Um, I think
Linebacker's
late
great.
I think Leighton Vander Esch is probably
Is
he's
healthy.
top five. I
That's the
think he's
question.
when he's healthy. I think he could be top five. He's definitely a. You don't think so?
Top five.
Top five?
No.
Leighton
No.
Vander
Bobby
Esch.
Wagner, Darius Leonard, Devin White, Levante David, Fred Warner, Roquan Smith.
I
That's
said
just
could
naming
be.
a
I
few.
said I said, I said could
That's
be.
just naming a few.
Said, said could
Okay.
be. He
It
has
could be.
potential.
I,
I just don't.
okay.
But yeah, he definitely has a potential. But yeah, I don't see it. I don't see nobody beating the Cowboys, especially with if Prescott stays healthy, if Ezekiel Elliott stays healthy, especially if you have um uh why am I drawing a blank?
You talking
CD
about
Lamb and
the
CD
offensive
Lamb,
line?
yeah,
Yeah, CD Lamb is great.
and
I just
Amari Cooper, as
I,
long as
I
they're
look at it
healthy.
I look at it like this though. When you mention the Cowboys, it's a lot of if this, if they, if this. Whereas that's why I mentioned like having such a well-rounded roster is important because you hope that Dak is healthy. Because if Dak isn't healthy, everything you just said is out the window. And I guess that kind of just goes into just the detriment of spending so much money on a quarterback. You can't spend enough money on the rest of your roster to try to build them up and kind of fix things. Or you have to rely on younger players who are going to take time to get ready. So that's my biggest gripe about the Cowboys. While their offense is great, if one of those pieces goes out, it's a whole nother ball game. Things are gonna struggle, particularly Dak, who is coming off that ankle injury and then just had his shoulder looked at. Who's to say that shoulder injuries are going to be something bigger? So that's my biggest thing about the Cowboys. I just think that in terms of just having a well-rounded roster, they don't have that. And to win a division that I think is just so close, like the NFC East, you just have to be able to prepare yourself if things go bad. And I don't think they have the roster to do that right now.
And um that's always the story with the Cowboys. If what if is always. I mean,
Shoulda, woulda,
they
coulda
all
every
shoulda,
year.
woulda, coulda always have great teams on paper, but they yeah, that's why they call. I mean, 8-8, the king of 8-8. Well, you can't really do 8-8 now with 17 games. So
They'll find a way. Go 8-8-1, something like that.
yeah, it's 8-8. So they'll always find a way.
And still could win
NFC,
the division off that. That's the crazy thing. Could still win the division.
you know what? You're absolutely right because there's nobody that there's. I think Dallas has the best chance, but at the same time, they also have the worst chance, if that makes sense. I mean,
That's
they
every team in the division. Every team has a chance to win. If you can win 9 games out of the NFC East, you're making the playoffs. You're winning the division.
okay. NFC West.
NFC West. Russell Wilson is one of my favorite players, and I want him to be great. With that being said, the
Now
Los
with that in
Angeles
mind,
Rams. Now this is Yeah, no, not at all. But that's why I'm saying the Los Angeles Rams, I think that this is their division to lose. I think that defensively, they have the best tandem in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, not to mention they have other people who play their roles well, such as the Darius Williams, Leonard Floyd played well too, and then just their linebackers, things like that. People just do their job on defense, and then offensively, you get Matthew Stafford in there with an offense that has some potential. Losing Cam Akers sucks because I think that this could have been a big year for Cam Akers, but I'm excited to see what Daryl Henderson does with the confidence of being that number one guy. You and I are both Memphis Tigers. We saw what Daryl Henderson could do, in his final year at Memphis, and I'm excited to see him be that home run hitter in the NFL, or at least get the chance to. Plus, Cooper Kupp is one of the best slot wide receivers in the league. Robert Woods is really good. Tutu Adwell, who they drafted, is a speedster. So there's just, in terms of just like having a complete roster, I think that they really have an opportunity to do great things on both sides of the ball. And I think that you mentioned the Cardinals and how you felt like they were slowly building things up. Well, their secondary isn't good. They lost Patrick Peterson and replaced him with Malcolm Butler. You know Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler got cooked on a
Oh
daily
yeah, I
basis.
know
Either he's
Malcolm
gonna get
Butler.
cooked or he's gonna get an interception.
Yeah,
So
I,
you
I
know
used to
that
watch.
firsthand.
I used to watch Malcolm Butler get served up a lot. I mean, it's
Yeah. So
he used to piss me
And
off.
if you try to tell me he's starting on the outside, okay. Buda Baker is great though, but I think that their secondary can be exploited. Same for the 49ers. I think that, I'm not saying, Richard Sherman was there and he was just complete lockdown, but right now their corners right now, I want to say it's Jason Verrett starting. And oh my gosh, I just looked at their depth chart and I don't remember. But Jason Verrett, when healthy, is pretty good, but got to get him healthy. Same for the safeties. Same problem for the Seahawks. Their secondary has some issues. Then losing Shaq Griffin hurts things too. So I just think that the Rams offense is going to be able to exploit those secondaries. While most of, each of those teams, have a bit of a pass rush, if you can't stop anybody on the back end, if the Rams offensive line can hold up just enough, they can pick you apart. And I think that that's going to be something big. And then because of their defense, they can stop a lot of people from scoring as well. So I'm going to say Rams win the NFC West.
I agree. The Rams had it all. And then they got Matthew Stafford. I think they I think they can give. They're capable of beating any team
Yeah.
because Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford was a great quarterback without a team
Yeah.
last year, and the Rams was a great team without a quarterback. So I think they might have solved that problem, but that's why you play the game. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. The Cardinals, I think they're working on building something. They're not there yet. It's going to take some time, and right now they still got to knock off the Rams. The 49ers, they need a quarterback. Um, 49 Seahawks, I'm sorry. Russell is great.
But that offensive line is not.
That line is not. I don't see Russell. I don't see Russell being there too much longer. Russell's going to go somewhere else because he's going to get tired of having to run for his life. But I mean,
Yeah.
all
The
that
man
stuff
got
was
three
cool.
kids.
Yeah, he got 3 kids. I mean, he ain't got time. I'm pretty sure they're driving him crazy. But it's
Yeah. He
and then he got to go out. Then he got to go out there every Sunday and like literally, you know.
run
I
for his
mean, he
life.
pulls some amazing tricks. I mean, when I remember
Yeah.
first seeing this guy, I'm like, how do you do it? I mean, he's amazing, but then he's getting older now, and
Yeah.
he's still great. But some of the stuff that you used to do when you was in your mid to younger 20s, not so much now. I mean, he definitely has the arm, he definitely has
Yeah.
the IQ, he definitely has the accuracy. But he's gonna get tired. He's gonna get tired of that, and especially
Yeah.
that's part of the game because a quarterback. What's the going rate for average going rate for a quarterback? I mean, how the highest the highest paid quarterback is making about what 40 something a year.
Patrick,
Yeah,
45.
yeah. Everybody that takes. I mean, you got to cut your losses somewhere. Seattle is deciding to cut it with their
Yeah.
offensive line because they can't get nobody to protect them. So he's going down like you, you, you got to do something. But
Yeah.
I think there's some other things that are.
Now, um,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I mentioned the New York Giants and how I think that Daniel Jones is gonna be gone regardless. I think that if Russ really gets fed up, because I mean, I think that the frustrations he had with the offensive line and then them, and when he was having such a good year passing, trying to transition to a run game, I think those frustrations were real. And so, who's to say that maybe he won't somehow end up in New York as a Giant? I think you put Russell Wilson on the Giants, and they have the best team in that division easily.
Yeah, absolutely. You put Russell Wilson on, yeah, he definitely changes. I mean, if you put Russell Wilson on a lot of teams, that makes him the best.
You can put him on Baltimore, and I'm good. I take Russ every
And
day of the week. No disrespect
and
to Lamar, I love Lamar, but Russ is.
and Lamar Jackson, and we'll talk about him a little to close out the show. But yeah, I don't see any reason why the Rams should not win the NFC West. AFC, we're skipping over the North and the South. AFC East, we got.
AFC East, I got Bills. Now, this is one of the most clear cut divisions in the league. I think that, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if anything, they've gotten better. Tre'Davious White is still a top cornerback. We saw the how potent the tandem of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs can be together, and I think that with another year under their belt, they can even get better. Then add in Emmanuel Sanders, who had a great year with New Orleans and showing that he can still go. Adds another great piece to that offense. Really, the only question I have about the Bills is their run game. Their offensive coordinator said that it was by design that they threw the ball so much. But I think that we've also seen that when Devin Singletary or Zach Moss get the ball, they don't do too much with it. So that would really be my only question with the Bills. And then you flip over to a team like the Patriots. I think Mac Jones starts soon. If he doesn't start week 1, I'd be shocked. Like within the first few weeks, I think it's his team. I think that they tried the Cam experiment. He's a great teammate, but in terms of being a Patriots quarterback in the offense that they run, Mac Jones is a perfect fit for it. So I think that Mac Jones gets the start, and I think that they do still have a solid season. I don't think see them win the division. The Dolphins defense, I think, is going to take a couple of steps back. Also, I don't think their offense is, as improved as a lot of people think they will be. But I do think that Tua has a better year, especially because he has more confidence in himself and also the organization by letting Ryan Fitzpatrick go and not really feeding into the quarterback rumor shows that no, we believe in you. We think that you can do something. And then a team like the Jets, while I think they are much improved than where they were a year ago, I think it's still going to be some time before they're really considered in the conversation. So I think it's the Bills division.
Yeah, the Bills run away. The Bills run away with this one. They have. I really like Josh Allen. He is. I think he's going to be elite. He definitely has the weapons. He definitely has the weapons around him. Um, the but I've watched Belichick for over 20 years make something out of nothing. I'm not saying he's going to win the division, um, but it wouldn't surprise me if he finds a way to sneak into the playoffs this
I see
year.
them as a wild card team. I think Mac Jones leads them to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Belichick, he finds a way. He just finds a way. Miami is they got a. I wasn't convinced with their defense last year. I need to see them do it again. I mean, do it
Yeah,
twice. Do
yeah,
do it 2 times,
right,
and then we can talk.
right.
And the
Then we'll
Jets,
talk. Yeah,
yeah, uh, uh, the Jets, they're just the Jets. Um,
yeah.
AFC West, AFC West. There's
I got to give the boring answer.
yeah, go
There's
ahead.
the Chiefs. I hate to
Yeah, I
give
mean,
the cliche, but yeah,
there's there's
it's the Chiefs. I think that it's gonna be competitive for like maybe a wild card spot. If the Broncos quarterback situation can improve at all, or maybe even the Chargers. Maybe if Justin Herbert can do it again, I think that he could, produce a pretty solid year, make them in the conversation. But it's the Chiefs division.
there's nobody else. Justin Herbert in time, not yet,
Yeah.
not ready. Broncos. Now, if the Broncos get Rodgers next year, Yeah, we can
Or Deshaun. If they get
or
Deshaun,
Deshaun. I mean, we could definitely have it. We
yeah.
definitely have this conversation then, but right now there's nothing to really talk about. Um, do you see your Ravens winning the NFC North?
Yes, I do. And this is taking out complete bias. I know that the Cleveland Browns right now are the talk of the AFC North. They're one of the most talked about teams in the AFC, period. And I give them a lot of credit for what they were able to do with Kevin Stefanski in his first year, really playing to their strengths, which is their run game. But like we just said about the Miami Dolphins defense, okay, you did it this year, do it again. And something about the Browns is when they got Odell, they had all these crazy expectations and they didn't work out. Now, this is a season where they actually have expectations. You make the playoffs for the first time in 18 years, cool, do it again. And I think the things that have to work is their secondary. Their secondary was terrible last year. Their secondary, they have so many new pieces. How are they going to mesh together? Baker Mayfield, of course, he's trying to make some money. He's trying to prove that he deserves to be a high paid quarterback. Okay, you got to do your job to do that. And I just think that while I could easily see the Browns in the playoffs, I still think that this is the Ravens division, mainly because of consistency, continuity. They didn't just wake up one day and decide to be a good team. Their defense has been great for years. We know this. Their offense, even though in the playoffs it has its struggles, they're going to score on you. Their run game, even with Mike Ingram gone, I'm expecting a big year out of J.K. Dobbins. And then most importantly, with Lamar. If you were to ask me which player in the league probably has the most approved, it's Lamar Jackson. Everybody's counting him out. People think he's a running back, yada yada yada. But in essence, this is the year to show that he's a good player because the Ravens have actually invested quite a bit into their receiving group. I don't love Sammy Watkins. I don't think that he's going to be what he did as a rookie, but he's an upgrade over what we had. Then we spent the first round pick of Rashad Bateman. I want to see what he can do when he's healthy. Tylan Wallace, who was great at Oklahoma State. So Baltimore has done so many things to put pieces around Lamar for him to excel, for him to take that next step in the passing game. And so I think that we can win games and we can win our division with our run game alone. But if we can finally get that passing game to a way where it's consistent, it can be something that defenses have to hone in on. I think that they could not only be an AFC North year, but a year maybe we do contend for the Super Bowl and not just paper champions, not just say it, but actually be the team to do it. And the reason why I can say that is because we have consistently done it. With teams like the Browns, we haven't seen that consistency. Hell, even with the Steelers, we can say what we want about their offseason, losing on their offensive lineman, yada, 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 but they are a consistent team. The Steelers are going to be in it regardless. And I think they're a team that can't be counted out either, especially if this is Big Ben's last year. I think that they're going to try to do whatever they can to make themselves successful. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, I think they honestly have the potential to be the best offense in the division. I think that if that Joe Burrow can stay healthy, the trio of wide receivers and Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, three great players, and Joe Burrow, and if that offensive line can step up, I think that they can be a very interesting team to watch as well. But just in terms of continuity, in terms of knowing what it takes to make it to the playoffs year in and year out, I think Baltimore is the team to beat in the AFC North.
Baltimore is a they've always been a force. They always will be a force. Um, I think Lamar Jackson doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's a better quarterback than people make him out to be. He is that defense is always going to be at an elite level. This is a year that I agree with you, Lamar Jackson. He got to take that another step forward. You
Yeah,
just got to prove people wrong every year. You just got to keep proving them wrong
yeah,
over and over. Yeah. Make them eat their words. Make them because
yeah.
they're gonna. People are going to a lot of critics are going to take the popular opinion until they take the next popular
Until
opinion.
something happens.
Yeah,
Right. And
they're
that's
going to
for
keep
me.
saying he's a running back until he showed them that they're not a running back, and then they're going to talk about how great he was. They're never going to say that they were wrong
Yeah.
for saying he was running back. They
No.
just they just go with the trend. But I think
Bill
Jordan,
Polian, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Bill Polian, when Lamar was coming out, said he should have moved to wide receiver. This man wins league MVP and he's still like, oh, I think he still should have moved to wide receiver. So people never want to admit that they're wrong. They just try to act like, oh yeah, we were on the bandwagon before everybody. Like, no, it's not real.
Cleveland, I want to see them do it again. Cleveland is
Yeah.
it's Cleveland has always had. I mean, after with years and years and years of getting top first round picks, and they have great players, and it seems like they have their they have their quarterback they have their quarterback, or do they? I guess the team the team doesn't have as much to prove to me as a quarterback does. The quarterback got to show me something, and
Yeah.
we'll see what
100%.
happens. Burrow is I've heard a lot of people say Seattle, not Seattle, Cincinnati found a way to screw everything up. They screwed up Carson Palmer. They kind of screwed up Boomer Esiason. Um, they it's just a matter of time before they mess this up, and we'll see what happens. Cincinnati has a offense. I can't don't know what to say about their defense. The NFC, no, I'm sorry, the AFC North is going to
There's
be
not much to say about the defense.
it's it's a and if you look at them cities, who plays the best in cold weather, it gets cold. I know I've been to all four of them cities. It gets cold, especially in Cleveland. I mean, having to play football in November and December when it counts, having to play in, I'm talking about freezing at cold temperatures, freezing temperatures, wind, having to throw, having quarterbacks who can throw the football that could with strong arms that could cut into the wind, that can be accurate in the wind, playing in the cold weather. It has to be you need it. You have to be able to play in the cold weather. You have to be able to run the football when the temperature drops. And that's one advantage that I believe Baltimore has. They can run the football. They can play defense because when it gets cold, you got to run the football, play defense. You got to go back to the old school conservative um, conservative standards. There's nothing wrong with all that um, high flying 300, 400-yard games, but try to throw a football in 20-degree weather. Or catching a football in 20-degree weather. Um, the cold weather, the weather changes the elements change the game a lot, and especially when it's raining and things like that. I think weather wise, the NFC North is the toughest division to play in, and I think that the I can't think who is our general manager for the
Oh,
Ravens?
Eric DaCosta.
Yeah, I think that Ravens in the front office, they built the team is built to play hard nosed ground and pound football. With the capability of airing it out every now and then. Um, w- we need to be to win that division, and I think uh, I think Baltimore finds a way. Um, the AFC South, the Titans. I try to be. I've This team has given me so much heartache over the years. I can actually see them, but what they're doing now, I think they have made I think they have made some advances in on the defensive side of the ball. Um, they have three skilled players on offense that are Pro Bowl level. I said the beginning of last year, after what Ryan Tannehill did that first year when he came off the bench and for Marcus Mariota, he earned a chance, a full season to play. So I wasn't really a fan of him, but he earned his chance. And even though he didn't do as good a job that I wanted him to do, I think he can if he can learn to facilitate the offense with Taylor Lewan back anchoring the line with um when you have AJ Brown and Julio Jones on both sides of the field, as well as Derrick Henry in the backfield, it kind of, I guess, it can make your job easier, especially in a division where um, I honestly don't. I mean, Carson Wentz is out for a little while. The Colts will. The Colts have a, I think, an underrated defense. I don't think they get a lot of. I don't think they get credit, but they don't get as much credit as they deserve. They're the Colts defense is a significant problem. And then on offense, hey, you got the time, you got they're old timers now, T.Y. Hilton and guys like
Hmm.
that's gonna always be making plays. Um Carson Wentz is definitely going to be a problem once he gets healthy. The Texans, they're a whole mess right now. I'm talking about a whole mess. I mean, if you had to if you could up how to mess up a Super Bowl caliber team in 2 words, it would be Houston Texans, and that's based on things that they did over the past 3 4 years.
I, I got
Jack,
another 2 words. Bill O'Brien.
yeah,
That's it.
Jacksonville
Bill O'Brien.
scares me. Trevor Lawrence scares me.
Really? This year or just in
Not
general?
not not this year. I'm talking about in general.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about in about three, four,
Okay.
5 years. Trevor Lawrence, this. If you look at some of the quarterbacks that have came through the AFC South, take the Colts for instance. They went directly from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. Philip Rivers for 1 year. Now they have Carson Wentz. We'll
Carson
see how
Wentz.
that works. Um, the Texans, they had Deshaun Watson, which that team a couple years
To
ago.
be
You can make arguments
Deshaun,
at all.
I, I would say that Deshaun Watson's like the outlier in terms of Houston quarterbacks. David Carr wasn't necessarily terrible. His offensive line was a joke, so that didn't help. And then you go to a guy like Matt Schaub, who had like 1 or 2 solid years, and then Deshaun, and now it's back to the pretty much just like average at best quarterback situation.
But this guy, Trevor Lawrence, if Jacksonville don't find a way to screw this up, this is it. This is their guy. They just get right now. They need to take advantage of these next 3 4 years where they have them at basically, at bargain basement prices, and work on building their other team up to make it good enough that they can that make a significant run, because eventually you're gonna have to pay this guy if he is as advertised. And I've seen him play with his years at Clemson. He is as advertised. If he comes into the league playing the way
Like
he did,
in college, though,
well, he is. People say he's a great one of
it
the greatest prodigy to come out the NFL since John Elway. They
and
said he's
it's
better
just
than
tough
Andrew.
because the thing is like when we hear these like monster expectations for these college players, it's all fine and dandy, but you got to play in the NFL first. And while there have been those guys who, like Peyton Manning was another guy who was talked about out the wazoo, like this man's going to be great, came in and did it. There's still other guys who really didn't do it. Like I don't think that Andrew Luck was as great as everybody made him out to be. In terms of the hype that he had coming into the league, I don't think that he hit the potential he was supposed to have. Did it play in part to his offensive line? Absolutely. His offensive line was terrible for most of the time that he was there. But I still feel like, in terms of the expectations that were put on him, he did not pan out the way that he was supposed to. And so I think that I'm just really weary of on yeah, like Trevor Lawrence was amazing in college. I don't argue that. But I just think that I'm not gonna bet the house on him being like a superior quarterback just yet. Let me see his rookie year first. Let me see what he can do first before really being like, oh yeah, this is it. And that's just for any position because anybody. I'm not gonna say anybody can be great in college, But the college and the NFL are two different ball games. Justin Fields can say the game was quote unquote slow for him as much as he wants to, but
He's
once
going to
that
regret
season
that.
kicks off for real, yeah, because now defense is going to be headhunting. The Broncos, when Tua said what he said, we're headhunting. They were like, okay, let me show you how fast it can be. And you're saying this in the preseason, so I just want to see him do it when the guns are live, when it matters. Preseason, like last night, he didn't have the best game, but I mean, once again, it's the preseason. It's going to take some time. Truthfully, I don't think he's really going to hit his potential until Urban Meyer is gone as head coach, if we're being honest.
Ooh, hot take. That's one of the hot takes.
Urban Meyer is an amazing college coach,
Oh boy.
but some of his roster decisions with this team so far, namely Tim Tebow, is like it's rough. And then bringing in Travis Etienne, and it's like, and then if they trade C.J. Henderson, like it's just different moves that are taking place that are just like really. But that's just me. I could be wrong. Urban Meyer could show that he can coach the NFL too, but really, I don't think Trevor Lawrence hits his peak until Urban Meyer retires or quits or gets fired, whichever comes first.
I believe I think the Titans win the division. But they still got a lot of work. They still got I think they win the division. They still got a lot of work to do. I always stand on the premise. I said, just give me one before they just give me one Super Bowl before I die. I just want one. Just give me one. I mean, I don't. I mean, yeah, I don't care about. I mean, Cowboys with their five and Steelers with their six, and all the other stuff. That's fine. I just want one. But I think we're moving in the right
I just want
direction.
to experience it.
Yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction, and I'm excited to see what the season holds because a lot of people are expecting Titans to have a monster offense. Um, I don't, but I try not to subscribe to all that stuff. I'd rather see it first. Um, I think. What do you think, given your what do you think that the Ravens' schedule is going to be? I mean, not their schedule. What do you think their record, preseason record, not preseason,
Record,
regular season record is going to be?
yeah,
What do
I
you
got you.
predict?
Well, first, I do agree with you about the Titans winning the division. I think that Carson Wentz's injury is going to help them out because I think the Colts are going to take some time to really get Carson Wentz like ingrained to the offense, even though they do have nice pieces. Not to mention their defense. Like when Baltimore played the Colts last year, I was like, oh yeah, this is a top 10 defense easily. That was one of the most frustrating games for me to watch for our offense. But yeah, as far as the Ravens go, um, I mean, everyone knows division games are always the toughest. And last year we beat everybody in our division but the Steelers. So I think that in factoring in those games, probably lose. I think we probably split one with the Steelers and we split one with the Browns. And then we play the NFC North this year. So it'll be very interesting to see us against Aaron Rodgers and
Where is that
Justin
game?
Field. That I think that game's in Baltimore. I
Okay.
think it's in Baltimore. I can double check. But yeah, overall, I could see this being I see about 13 and 4, 12 and 5. Realistically, I think that's about our range. Like I said, I think we split a game with the Browns. I think we split a game with the Steelers. Bengals, I think one game is ugly. The other one, I think they give us a big run for our money. But overall, I see us winning the division about 12 and 5, 13 and 14, some in that range. I'm not gonna sit here and say we're gonna have like a 2-loss season again because that's unrealistic. I don't think that happens. Um, and just to confirm, yeah, that game is in Baltimore, week 15. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I say our range is about 12, 5, 13 and 4, something along those lines. I feel like there are a few games that we play that I could see games that going in should be a breeze, but it may be more difficult like the Bears. I mean, the Bears defense is still going to be a bit tough, and then if Justin Fields comes on like everybody anticipates him doing it, I could see that being a factor. Uh, we play the Dolphins this year. We play the Dolphins. I'm not sold on their defense either, especially because their run defense did have some problems, and we run the ball better than anybody else with the team wide in the league. So yeah, so I'd say about Worst case, I could see 11-6. Best case, maybe 14-3.
Okay. I would with the Titans. I say 12-5. I don't see us. We're not. I don't see. Even though we got the Chiefs on our field, I don't see us be. I don't. I'm not convinced. Um, we're good to lose against the Colts at least once a year. Well, we always split one with the Colts. We're not going into LA beating the
Mhm.
Rams. It's just not happening. We can definitely um, some of these games I just don't know. We're capable of winning them. It just depends. Home field advantage. I believe in home field advantage does play a factor in a lot of games. I think it. I think it. I think it helps us get past the Bills. I think it helps us get past the Cardinals to start it off. Um, and then we always find and
Truthfully, with the Cardinals defense, I'm sorry.
now go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say with the Cardinals defense, I don't think that home field advantage would be that necessary. Like I was mentioned with the Cardinals secondary, and I really don't think they'll have the defense to slow down Derrick Henry. So I think even if you were in Phoenix, I think they'd be able to handle him pretty decisively.
And we can go to Pittsburgh and win, but I just don't know in December. Going to Heinz Field in December to beat to play the Steelers, it's I don't know. But in order to get to where you got to go, you got to do things you never done. You got to go if the Titans are going to win a Super Bowl, if their Super Bowl window is at least cracked open, they have to do games like they have to win games like that. They have to go to places like Heinz Field in December, or they got to go to they got to go to Foxborough Thanksgiving weekend, or I mean, not like that's a draft that's a that's a significant uphill climb nowadays. But you have to win games like that. You have to go to SoFi Stadium and beat the Rams, which, like I said, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Not with the way the Rams are. I think we can do 12-5. There's always those games where you just don't. I mean, everybody has games. You'd be like, how did they lose that? I
Yeah,
could,
those trap games.
yeah. I mean, Titans and Jets, October 3rd. I see. I mean, that could be one. Um, it's just another one. Titans and Saints. It's I just don't know, but it's I think the season is going to be promising. I can't wait for it to get started. It's definitely my favorite time of the year. My Sundays are always consumed by watching the games. I'm a big proponent of the NFL Red Zone channel. If you don't know, if you don't know about
N-
it, you should definitely look
NFL
into it.
Sunday Ticket.
Yeah.
NFL
Um,
Sunday Ticket is the best investment I've ever made in my life. I love it.
yeah, it's definitely great. Um, I appreciate you being on. Definitely I enjoyed this conversation. It's been is we've always had conversations like this, in class and everything. I just so that's how I knew that this is going to be one of those types of conversations too. Go ahead, plug your channel real quick.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. But yeah, be sure to check out the xreport.net. That is our website, the xreport.net for exclusive sports content written by yours truly and fellow expert writers. Previous episodes of our lovely podcast, which can be found at everywhere you find listen to podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the good stuff. Anywhere you look, we're there. And yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. As well as our YouTube channel. Thanks for having me. It's always fun talking football. It's my favorite thing to talk about. I'm excited to see this how the season kicks off. Like I said, we don't see each other in the regular season, but I'm sure in the playoffs we'll see y'all again.
Yeah.
Let's just agree not to step on
But
logos. How about that?
yeah, yeah, hey, agreed. I mean, I've never been a fan of that anyway. It's just, but I mean, Titans. We always. our players always do that stuff. We went to Dallas and stepped on their logo and all that other stuff. I'm like, come on, man, y'all gotta quit being disrespectful and just play the game. I mean, I know y'all gonna talk trash and all that stuff, but logos, I guess. Hey, do me a favor, Raven. Put your put the links and links to your podcast and everything into the chat so that way people can reference it. Like I said, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Look to have you on. Probably, if you're available, to have you on again, like right before the playoffs start. Just talk about
Yeah,
the playoffs. Um,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and wish you all the continued success and everything. And like I said, this was definitely an enjoyable episode. Hope the viewers, on demand, definitely enjoy this episode as well. Be sure to like the video, share the video, subscribe to not just myself, New Next Network, but to the X Report as well, and follow all things Raven Moore. And thank you for watching. Hope everybody enjoy the rest of their day. Rest of your day. Peace.